What's going on, guys? Bart here with Tully Television, and I want to thank all of you for stopping by, liking, commenting, sharing. Hope today is the day that we earn that subscription. You hit the red subscribe bar down below. Give us a like if you are interested in what we're talking about today. And today we're getting into an issue of Excalibur, Volume 1, Issue 9. And we've had our team set up for some interesting twists and turns that may occur in this series. The team is still trying to get used to each other. They've had some missions before together. They're trying to work in conjunction with a branch of the the police. Um, we just got done with their adventure in New York City with the Inferno storyline, and we carry some of that over here a little bit because of Brian and Megan's powers being a little bit on the fritz, and possibly Inferno causing that and trying to figure out what's going on. But this definitely does start one of the wildest stories uh, in Excalibur, and really something that's been popularized more in Marvel Studio productions these days concerning the multiverse. Now, you remember this book came out back in the late 80s, early 90s, and 30 something years later, 40 something years later. And this is not the first book that's dealt with multiversal issues. The first time we got something like that, I believe, was a Flash of Two Worlds, where that was kind of the first time where Earth 1 and Earth 2 DC kind of blended together in a way for one story. And here in Excalibur, they did a lot of that type of stuff where they were going from Earth to Earth to Earth, coming across different versions of themselves, and to see how one small change can make you into a totally different person altogether. But, here they're battling themselves. They wind up battling themselves, so to speak, and they also are trying to figure out the mystery of Widget, so to speak, because Widget seems to, in this first year of stories, set up a lot of different things that come back and the Excalibur team deals with, right? Um, all right, so here's the cover. I might have showed this already. So here's the cover. Them coming back from basically New York, right? I guess. Here at the light tower, we see Lockheed, Kitty's dragon, being taken out. And we get Excalibur, right? Wrong! Wrong! It's not Excalibur. It's this team from. Now, a few issues ago, there was a Moira McTaggart and Callisto that was captured. And they seem to come from a world that was run by the Yahtzees. Not the game Yahtzees, the people that liked what the Germans were doing in the 1940s, those Yahtzees, okay? And on their world, they won, okay? And dominated the world. And this is what happens when, and you would figure Kitty Pryde being of Jewish descent, but they're using her, basically they have the Star of David tattooed on her head, and they may not be treating her necessarily poorly because, you know, yeah, it can only maybe go so far, I guess, in comic books back then. But it's definitely an interesting peek into what that world is and how they deal with people, and how even Kitty herself, this version of Kitty, feels almost as if she's doing something right. You know what I mean? But here we get Kitty, our Kitty, and stuff, um, to basically test what his power limits have been. They're using a gutted like training room from when the mansion was destroyed in a story that happened in X-Men 243, but Kitty and the Excalibur team are using what's remaining there to test where Brian is right at the moment, because again, the Inferno story that seems to affect his power, affect Megan's powers, and as they're going through that, we kind of see Megan again on the emotional range of being nervous, being anxious. She turns herself into a kitty pride, and then she kind of takes the form of a female Nightcrawler. And Brian is still trying to figure out how much he can go. Rachel comes in, she accidentally touches Megan, and everything just kind of blows up and leaves Brian a big mess. And these are the slight things that we can kind of laugh at. No one got hurt, but there brings kind of more questions into really what can help Megan during her emotional, uh, bouts with life. You know what I mean? Where she's so uncomfortable in her skin, it appears to be that she keeps just changing how she appears when possible difficult things are going on, and kind of taking the form of the person they feel most comfortable with, which seems to be at the moment Nightcrawler here. And of course, Brian is kind of noticing this, but in his own way, has kind of strayed himself a little bit, leaving her to be left alone. And no one likes to be like without affection or attention, let's be, especially when she's not really doing anything for Brian. It's more Brian that's feeling all out of sorts with everything. I will say that the early on bout with alcoholism doesn't seem to be so current in these issues, but we'll see if it pops back up later on in the series. I thought that would have been good to continue to go down that road of a superhero feeling he needs alcohol to be the good guy to save the day, even though he's drowning in his own problems, so to speak. And I thought that would be interesting. We'll see if they touch back on it, but they've touched very lightly in the earlier issues of him possibly using alcohol as a crutch, but they don't really seem to be doing that anymore at the moment. They get a call about Moira McTaggart, and they go flying off. Here we see Courtney Ross, right? She comes across this guy that we've been seeing on and off, who had a thing for Rachel, or at least a lure of her power. But this is really Saturnine. Sorry, that's a tongue twister, I guess. Saturnine taking the place of Courtney Ross, because they wound up killing Courtney Ross a few issues ago when they came to, here. So she decided to take the life of Courtney Ross here, like the life that she was living here. She decided to take it over. And she gets into playing this card game, basically with this big to-do guy. All right, he's got the money, but she winds up ultimately winning because she kept increasing the stakes of the game to where now basically he works for her and owes her all this money, and basically what's his is hers and what's hers is hers. And that's kind of where we're at right now. She seems to be setting herself up to make sure she has herself with money coming in and everything, and being able to do what she needs to do, whatever her plans are, without worrying about paying the bills because they're already paid, right? Through this guy and his lack of knowing when to call it quits, right? Here we see Widget again teleporting people to God knows where, bringing people in, and ultimately the cop liaison that deals with the Excalibur sees them come in and is like, what the hell? So Widget again is at it, always sending people somewhere, bringing people in, and we don't really know what it is that is his. Again, we don't know what his motivation for doing all of this is. Maybe he's just a jerk and likes to mess with people's lives, or there's a lesson for people to learn or people to deal with when he's doing this. There's no real indication of either or what his motivation is so far. And here is when things get interesting because we've come across the Yahtzee Excalibur again, and I'm just going to call them Yahtzee Excalibur, and their attempt to save their Moira McTaggart and Callisto. And basically what happens with that is that as the cop is trying to deal with these aliens that popped out of nowhere, he's assuming that this is their Brian Braderick, right? And he's kind of like, oh, hey, hold on, I'm trying to get this done. And he winds up getting knocked out, but our Excalibur shows up. Now, Nightcrawler kind of takes charge here, and he tells Brian and Megan, you should stay back because of your power influx going on, up and down, up and down. But essentially, what we wind up getting here is that Rachel ends up coming across the other universe's Brian Braddock is trying to get information from him. Kitty Pryde here finds herself fighting herself and is taken out by herself. Our Kitty is taken out by the Yahtzee Kitty, okay? Here we see, and then we just see here Captain Yahtzee. I'm not going to call him Captain Yahtzee takes out Rachel. We see Nightcrawler fighting the other Captain Britain, so to speak, right? And really here we find that the team has been taken out because essentially they weren't expecting probably to face themselves, but because that would probably be jarring, right? You're on a mission and then you face yourself, and then that, like, you get taken out. But ultimately, the last person standing is Captain Britain, and being there at old museum setting, there's a outfit that was on display from his early days, and decides to put that on and is ready to go against the Yahtzee Excalibur, so to speak. And that's where we wind up leaving this particular issue. We see that this Excalibur is trying to come together. It seems more of like a dysfunctional family as opposed to a well-oiled machine. They're not at that stage yet with each other. I remember the X-Men. Some of these X-Men have been together for years, and all you need to say is one thing or think one thing, and they know what the plan is. Here, it's just... And plus, there seems to be training on the X-Men side, so to speak, where we haven't really watched Excalibur train together, learn how to work together. it's almost as they're doing this, as it comes, and I'm not sure that's the wisest thing either. They're really at a point where they really need to wonder if they're gonna, like if we're gonna be a team, we have to try to figure out how to work better together. Because it seems like they eventually, make it, but there doesn't seem to be Captain Britain as the leader doesn't seem to really be formulating any plans. A lot of his stuff seems to be he's more concentrated on the inner turmoil within himself. As we see this taking effect here with his powers, and Nightcrawler having to take point on the mission, the field mission, so to speak. But we shall see how this plays out. Can Excalibur win against this Yahtzee Excalibur, so to speak? And where does this lead us into the upcoming year end, like the first wrap up of the year of this book? And there's this begins basically the cross time keeper here, so to speak. It hasn't been officially called that yet, but we'll see that this is the beginning of a lot of alternate reality shenanigans involving our team. I'm pretty hyped to see that. Let me know what you've been thinking of this old school read, so to speak, the retro read. And until next time, peace.